The Beverly Council on Aging welcomes you to our program, Livin' the Good Life, designed to explore our beautiful city and the world around us.
Hello and welcome to Livin' the Good Life. Our guest today is Mary Crowe from Care Dimensions, and I'm going to let her explain what that is, and then we'll talk about some of the many questions I have in regard to this as I'm getting older. So Mary, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Thank you very much, Louise. Thanks for having me on the show. Care Dimensions is the largest hospice in the state of Massachusetts. We're a not-for-profit. We do hospice, palliative, and support services. My role there is the Director of Professional and Community Education, and we do a large number of external programs for professionals and for community members around a variety of topics pertaining to end of life, advanced illness, and grief loss, and a variety of other things.
Okay. And you had mentioned in an earlier conversation that everyone should have a healthcare proxy, no matter what their age.
That's right.
Could you expand on that a little?
You betcha. Yeah, and I love that we're talking about this right now because April happens to be National Healthcare Decision Month, with April 16th being National Healthcare Decision Day. This is, and the whole point of that is to, again, give people that push to take charge of their healthcare wishes. April should not be the only time people do this, though.
Okay.
This should be something that, again, people want to do, and they take charge in this way. So a healthcare proxy is a form of an advance directive. And what an advance directive is, it's a legal document that you put into place indicating who you would want making healthcare decisions for you when the day comes that you're not able to do it for yourself. So a healthcare proxy is really important. And like you said, you brought the age thing up. Now, a healthcare proxy should be done for everyone 18 and over. So this does not have to, a lot of times people focus on this being for people who are older or ill. A healthcare proxy is something that should be done 18 and over, and it's really important that it's done because we think that if something came up for us, a health issue, an accident, whatever it is, and if we weren't able to make those decisions, that would defer to family. That's not true. If we do not have a healthcare proxy in place which appoints that person, then what would happen is that actually guardianship would need to be pursued.
And how does that work?
Well, it's very tedious. It's actually, you'd have to go through the court system to petition guardianship. It can be timely and costly, timely, time-consuming, and also you might not get the person who you would want to have in that role. So it's really a big deal. This is a way for people to take charge ahead of time of who they would want, because this is a big decision, putting into place who you would want. And I say making healthcare decisions for you, really the person you should be having is who you would want following through on your wishes, because that's really the person that you want to have as your healthcare agent. There should be a discussion with this as well. So sometimes it's not the person that we think it should be. It might, because we always think it's going to be the person closest to us, whether it's our spouse, our children, what have you. But if in conversation, when we indicate what our wishes would be, if they don't feel that they can follow through on those wishes, they wouldn't be the person that should be indicated as the healthcare agent. So that really needs to be determined. We should always pick our healthcare proxy with our head and not our heart. Okay, it's really important that who's indicated on that.
Yeah, well, my children and I have been talking about setting a time aside to do this. What kind of things should we have ready for that discussion? I mean, is there, like, one of my daughters sent for this pamphlet called 5 Wishes.
Yes.
So we each have that.
Excellent.
Not that I read it. But, but I have it.
Well, I'm glad you're moving towards it, though, because, again, it's important that we do this. But what we do is we wait. We procrastinate. We don't want to talk about this stuff. And it's really important because a lot of times, only 25 to 30% of the population has a healthcare proxy in effect, even though we know that for people 18 and over, this is such a critical document. We can see how we procrastinate and we put this off. So really important that we get these things going. So when you're meeting with your family, and hopefully sooner than later, and I'm glad you're all having this discussion, because it doesn't just apply to you. This applies to everybody. If everybody in that family, the group that you're talking about, is 18 and over, it would apply to everybody there about making sure that they have that conversation for themselves as well. So you should have copies of the Massachusetts Healthcare Proxy Form. You should have, and also, again, like you said, you brought up 5 Wishes. 5 Wishes is a useful tool. It's a personal directive. It's a type of living will, actually, which you can get very specific on what your wishes are in there, about your physical, even emotional, spiritual needs in that it covers. Honoring choices is another version of those personal directives. And people, some like the 5 Wishes, some like honoring choices. They're both wonderful documents, but they really allow you to have really extensive conversation on what one's wishes would be. So these documents, even though a living will is not a legal document in the state of Massachusetts, it provides a wonderful guideline to help healthcare providers as well as families or whoever you're putting as an agent to also make sure that they're understanding what your wishes would be in those circumstances. A healthcare proxy is a legal document. So that does not have to go through an attorney. It does not have to be notarized. So again, it's important when you're doing it that day that you're sitting there with your family. You have already given consideration of who you would want in that role, and we can have that discussion more. But you're filling out that form, you're signing it, you're dating it, and 2 objective people are witnessing it.
Okay. And where do you get the form?
You can get a form anywhere, any healthcare organization that, because of the Self-Determination Act of 1990, any healthcare organization that receives Medicare and Medicaid dollars, they must have these forms on hand. So you can even download a Massachusetts healthcare proxy form, but you could go to any hospital or healthcare agency, and again, they would be able to give that to you. Care Dimensions would be happy to provide you with some. So again, it's these are really, really important forms, and you want to make sure you have these forms handy so that these discussions can be had.
Where is Care Dimensions located?
Our main office is located in Danvers. On Sylvan Street in Danvers. We also have another office in Waltham, and we also have 2 licensed inpatient hospice houses. One, the Kaplan Family Hospice House, which is on Liberty Street in Danvers, and the Care Dimensions Hospice House, which is it's in Lincoln, and that's just a year old this April. So yes, So we can again, we welcome people to get in touch with us around these documents and these forms. We would be happy to provide them to people. We really understand the importance of people filling out these documents.
Yeah, I didn't realize it until it was actually one of my daughters who brought it up. And then just recently I went for a checkup at the doctor's office, and his wife, who is there doing, she does the Alzheimer's test with you and that, and she brought it in, and we worked on it together and worked out what at the time I thought was very good wording. but I reread it a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not as happy with the wording as I thought I was.
Yep.
So how do you...
Well, I think you're talking about two different forms, though, right?
Oh.
So the healthcare proxy form, like I said, is that legal document, and that's the form that you would be deciding who you would want making decisions for you when that day comes, that when you're not able to do that for yourself. With the physicians, probably those documents that they're bringing up there, but they should be encouraging people to have their healthcare proxies filled out. It might have been a MOLST form, a medical order or Massachusetts order for life-sustaining treatment. Was that form, did that discuss about cardiopulmonary resuscitation and hospitalization, all that? That's what that form was then. So what that form is, it's a medical order form. That's an actionable medical order form. So where a healthcare proxy is a legal document, and like I said, who appoints that person of who you would want making those healthcare decisions for you when the day comes that you can't do it for yourself. The MOLST form is actually an actionable medical order form. So that's asking you about specific things that you want to have in place and asking those questions. Would you want cardiopulmonary resuscitation? And the MOLST form is a wonderful form. It asks, what would you like in these situations? What would you not? It also talks about hospitalization. It talks about intubation. It talks about dialysis. It talks about artificial nutrition, hydration. The MOLST form is a form that you should be sitting with your physician assistant, or nurse practitioner. You should be having a conversation with them around those specific wishes around these things. And you sign this document, they sign the document, and the second part that I talked about, that's a whole separate form, the two sides. You sign that side as well, and then also your physician signs off on that, and you keep the original. But that's a medical order form.
Oh, okay.
Right. So they're two different things. Now, sometimes with this healthcare proxy, people think and why is it that only 25 or 30% of the population has one? I think for people, they feel that if they fill one out, they're going to lose control. That other people are going to be able to make these decisions on their behalf. That's not true, actually, because a healthcare proxy does not go into effect until the healthcare team, the professionals, the MD, has determined that you lack capacity, and they have to write an order and a note indicating that you lack capacity. Therefore, the healthcare proxy has been activated. So again, people aren't losing control. You're actually taking control. So people worry about that, though. But it does not go into effect until you're not able to make those decisions. So people don't have to worry about that piece.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
The less we have to worry about, the better. Because I walk around thinking, that I've got 20 years.
And you know what? You probably do, which is great. But the thing is, that's the thing about it. That's the other piece to why people, I don't need to do this because I'm healthy, and I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to think about it.
Right.
Well, Louise, I've had my healthcare proxy in place since I was 25 years old.
Wow.
Now, and it does it. And I had graduated from grad school at 22. I was in healthcare already. I knew the importance of it. It wasn't because I thought I was going somewhere. Then I certainly had hoped not. But I also knew the importance of taking charge of my healthcare wishes and making sure that who I had in that place, that who I was going to have speaking on my behalf, that I had control over that. Like I said, we do. We wait till crisis time on this, don't we? And we have these conversations in the wrong places, like the emergency room, the ICU. These conversations should be having much sooner in life around the kitchen table.
I know. Incident is coming back to me. My father had a stroke. He was 86 at the time. And I remember the nurse said to me, "You better talk to your mother quick and get something in place because your father could end up a vegetable in a nursing home if we don't get something." Some sort of a directive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And earlier on, in life, and this was years before healthcare proxies came about, it would, the healthcare team would kind of defer to the family and things like that. But it's not always the family that the person wants making those decisions. So legally, and there were all kinds of problems that arose from that. So now, like I said, it wouldn't happen that way. If you don't have that legal document in place, a healthcare proxy appointed, like I said, that's going to go to guardianship. And that gets very complicated.
Uh-huh.
It truly does.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it the simplest way.
Yes,
The
and this is
simplest
how
way
and this is
possible.
the simplest way, which is
Yeah.
interesting. Like I said, the conversations that we need to have the most are the ones we run the furthest from.
Yes, right.
Isn't it true?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
So what's interesting is when we have these conversations, like I said, if I have mine in place, this isn't stuff that weighs on me. Life is stressful enough, isn't it?
Yeah, it
and this
sure
is
is.
one thing that I don't have to worry about because I have all those things in order if that ever came up. And I can live fully without having that weight of what would happen in these situations.
Yeah.
Now, so, this is one of the nice things about having that. It also relieves family of a tremendous burden in terms of trying to figure out what a person would want when we have these discussions early on.
Yeah.
And not trying to figure out what would that person want. And again, usually that's in crisis point when people are emotional. Those aren't the times to be doing that.
Yeah.
So, and once you fill out the healthcare proxy, things change. Right? So you might even decide, geez, that's not the person I want making those decisions at some point, or following through on my wishes. That's not the person I want speaking for me. So you can change that at any time.
Oh, good.
So you should update that whenever there are changes. You can update it at any point. You can make those changes. But what you want to do is when you fill out that form, and like I said, you're filling out that information, you sign it, date it, you have two people, objective people that are witnessing that you understand what you're signing. You're appointing that healthcare agent. Also make sure you have an alternate. There are many times when I've seen that the person that was appointed as the healthcare agent predeceased the person who actually appointed them. You should always have an alternate because what if that person had their own health issues and they couldn't serve in that capacity? So if you don't have an alternate and that person couldn't, then again it goes to guardianship. I've also seen situations where people didn't date them and it's null and void.
Really?
Yeah, I had a situation years ago. I was the director of social service in a facility, and a person came in, the patient had advanced Alzheimer's disease, and the family came in, and I asked them for the healthcare proxy because clearly this person couldn't make their own decisions, and they gave me the form, but it had no date on it. And I said, well, this form is not valid. It has no date. And they said, oh, yeah, that was filled out years ago. You can just throw a date in. And I said, oh, I can't do that. That's illegal. That I don't know that you weren't in a hallway filling this form out. Right? I mean, so I had to be a patient advocate and say, I couldn't fill that. I really couldn't do that. That family actually had to go and pursue guardianship. Because it was not dated. When you complete that healthcare proxy, you keep that original. And a good place to keep it is in a fire-safe box in your home. Yeah. So you hold on to that, make copies, put it in your medical record, give it to your healthcare agent that you appointed and the alternate, and anyone else you would do that. If you're ever going in and out of a healthcare setting, bring a copy with you. Because otherwise they're going to ask you each time. So some people just keep filling them out. And we don't want to keep doing that. The one that's valid is the most recent date. So you want to keep ahead of that.
Yeah, I have a nice metal box.
Good, perfect.
With things in,
and it's a good place to keep that. Now the MOLS form's different though, right? Because that's a medical order form. So I wouldn't put the MOLS form in the box. The place to put because that's a medical order form, and that goes across all healthcare settings. So let's say you had a medical emergency at home. And 911 was called, and the paramedics come out, emergency medical services. The first place they're going to look for that MOLST is on your refrigerator. Either on or in it. They're not going to go through files or boxes. They're going to look to see, do you have the medical orders there visible? And that's what they're going to respond to.
Yeah, I have it's a little red plastic thing, magnet on that I got actually at, I think it was at the senior center here in Beverly.
The Viola Life?
Yes.
Very good. That's a perfect place to put it. And that's a wonderful place. Like I said, because emergency medical services, that's the first place they're going to look.
And it's in the middle box right now.
Yeah, so you'll get it and you'll put it in your Viola Life, right?
Yes.
And it's just like I said, it's a great card. And I would even keep your original of your healthcare proxy there. Make a copy of your healthcare proxy, put it right behind the MOLST, right there.
Okay, great. Yeah,
absolutely.
I work in a copy center, so.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I could make 100 copies if I need
and it's just good to have. And anytime that's updated or whatever, like I said, just bring those, and you can switch those out, make sure that the doctor has. You know, it's interesting. The good news is, as of January 1st, 2016, the physicians, you're actually able to make an appointment with your medical doctor, which is a great thing, to discuss goals of care or advanced care planning. And they can actually bill for that visit. So this is a wonderful thing, actually, that happens. So people, they shouldn't shy away from having these conversations with their doctors. So this is a wonderful thing. So they should be encouraged to do this type of work, have these kinds of discussions, and like I said, not wait till the last minute. Have these things, these conversations well in advance.
Yeah.
We assume when we are so close to people that, and I bet you see this with your kids. Oh, you know, well, we know what you want because you know you're so close to one another. You don't know what a person wants unless they say the words, right?
I know it. Well, I'm lucky in a way. I think I have mentioned this in the past to you, but my youngest daughter is actually a nurse in a hospice facility out in California.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
So she's pretty good for answering questions, you know.
And I'm sure she has probably mentioned just the how important this is.
Oh, yes,
Not just for you, but for everyone in your family, right?
Yeah, we hadn't thought of it as everyone else until, well, actually a couple of weeks ago, one of my daughters said, we probably should do this ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So,
like I said, you know, with why people focus on people who are older or have medical issues, but like I said, the people who actually, why this came about, healthcare proxies, were because of those landmark cases of Karen Ann Quinlan, Terry Schiavo, Nancy Krazan. They were all in their 20s.
Ooh.
Yeah. You know, accident, illness, death is not a respecter of age. So that's why 18 is the number, because you become a legal adult at 18.
Okay,
So,
I wondered about that.
So when my daughter turned 18, her doctor wouldn't even talk to us anymore. And not without her permission. And I applaud the doctor, because that's the way it should be done. So my daughter actually had to call the physician and say, I give my parents permission to receive my medical information. And that's the way it should happen. But again, this is not for people just because of an age issue. Everybody 18 and over should be thinking about this.
Whether you have health issues or not.
It's not going to just go to your parents. It's not going to go to your kids. It's again, you have to have that legal document in place indicating who you would want.
Wow. I guess I better get it going.
Yes, And like I said, we put off, you know, I'll get to it. And again, we just don't know what happens in the meantime, you know. I was talking with a woman just about a week ago, and she actually was in a situation where her mother had a medical crisis. She was in the hospital, and she didn't have a healthcare proxy. So this daughter ended up sitting. She had a living will, which was interesting, but that, again, does not give the daughter authority to make decisions on her behalf, healthcare decisions. Didn't have a healthcare proxy. This daughter was distraught over her mother's, it was a very quick change in status. The daughter ended up sitting in court the entire day. She was so emotional and distraught. And again, she wasn't even sure that she was going to be appointed guardian. So it was, like I told, time-consuming, costly, and emotional for her. So afterwards, she's around 50 years old, and the daughter said to me that it really made her think they don't have one in place. So I said, so have you done it? And she said, not yet. I said, so even after this emotional crisis that you went through, that still didn't kind of push you to go ahead. She said, we think about it all the time. I said, so what's the hesitation? She said, it's just this, you know, it's so hard sometimes for people to just take the initiative to do it. And she said part of it was that she wasn't quite sure who she would want as her healthcare agent. I said, well, have you narrowed it to where you could have somebody that you would feel really, you know, pretty comfortable with at this time? And she said, yes. I said, so why not do that, have that in place in case a crisis occurred, and then you can always make changes later.
Oh, you can?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
That was my next question.
You can change it at any time. Anytime you can make adjustments. Absolutely.
And I'm not quite clear on what a living will is.
Yeah.
Is that something that you really should have too?
It's wonderful to have just because it goes into detail around what your healthcare wishes are and all of that. Like I said, 5 wishes is a form of a living will.
Oh, okay.
And so, but it asks questions on, and it's wonderful because, like I said, even though it's not a legal document, it's a guideline. 5 wishes are actually considered a recognized document in Massachusetts, actually in 42 out of the 50 states, only because Wish 1 is a form of a healthcare proxy. So, but when some people use it, and they'll use Wish 2 through 5, which is because they'll already have a healthcare proxy established, it talks about what medical treatment would you want? How would you like to be cared for? It talks about comfort. Wish 3 is around hospice and palliative care. It gets into, how would you, where would you want to be? Where, what would you want to say to people if you haven't been able to say everything? Where would you want to die? Who would you want around you when that's happening? All kinds of questions. I had a friend who was a nurse and wanted to fill her 5 wishes out and asked me to be with her while she was doing it. She was very specific about, she wanted to stay in her apartment for as long as she could, and she happened to she had pancreatic cancer she was diagnosed with. So she really had this impetus to fill this out. And she said that she wanted to be in her apartment for as long as she could. When she couldn't do that, she wanted to go to the Kaplan Family Hospice House. She was very specific. She even put about the services, her funeral services, what she wanted that to look like, even right down to the food at the reception. She ran us ICU. This woman was a take charge kind of gal.
Oh, okay.
So she really knew what she wanted. And when she died, the daughter was left with this 5 wishes and these guidelines, these instructions. And she said it was the greatest gift her mother had ever given her.
Oh, really?
It relieved so much pressure. And the other thing was, the daughter, she completed it to a T, followed through on this, that her mother's wishes.
Yeah.
What an honor. So she honored her mother really to the nth degree, where she honored her wishes right to the T, and the daughter also had the worry and and didn't have to really think about what she was supposed to do because the mother was very clear on her wishes. That's quite a gift.
Great, I'll say. It sure is. Okay, we're sort of winding down at this point. So could you, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but could you just tell people specifically what documents you need to have, and if there's a distinction between them, make that distinction?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. So
sort of nail it down.
Yep, absolutely. So if I had to say, after this show, what are you going to do? You're going to get your healthcare proxy completed.
Okay.
All right. So if I had to say one document, again, that everybody should have, very important that it be done as soon as possible, I would say the healthcare proxy.
Okay.
Then other documents, like the living will, those personal directives, whether it be 5 wishes or honoring choices, those are a process good over time to have because they provide those guidelines. The MOLS form generally are for people that if they have some type of an illness, and it doesn't, a serious illness, that sort of thing. If the doctor feels like it's important to have a conversation with you around do not resuscitate, those are the people that should be filling out a MOLS. Not every single person 18 and over fills out a MOLS. So that's a conversation to have with your physician. So if we had to say again, the first thing that you're going to do, is filling out that healthcare proxy form. But then those separate categories, like I said, the MOLS is a medical order. They're important, but you're doing them at different times and for different reasons in that way. So that would be my suggestion to people.
Okay. And you suggest you keep the form like on the refrigerator,
always
someplace
keep your
very
originals.
visible.
Yep. And even with 5 wishes, you can get these forms online. You do have to pay for them. So they used to be $1, now they're $5, I believe. But again, these are forms that we do have at Care Dimensions. So if people are interested in copies of the healthcare proxy, if they're interested in 5 wishes or honoring choices, please give us a call because we can get those forms for you. We're welcome. We are happy to share those.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. And why don't you just mention the phone number and who to ask for? Or?
Yes, actually, the phone number there is 888-283-1722. So
Okay.
888-283-1722. And when they call in, they can indicate what they were looking for, and they will get that call to any of us.
And do people make an appointment to come in and see you? Or
They don't
just-
have to make an appointment because they won't be filling the forms out with us, but we certainly would be happy to provide the people with those forms. And if, certainly if I could answer any questions or any of our staff, we're happy to do that as well.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're
This
very
has been
welcome.
really good.
Thank
And
you, Louise.
As usual, you're getting me motivated.
Good, good.
I hope that I won't walk out of here and then get unmotivated.
Set an intention. Set that intention. You'll do it.
Right. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's our show for today. This is Living the Good Life, and I hope all of you will live a good life.
You've been watching Livin' the Good Life. We always welcome your comments and suggestions for future programs. Call us at 978-921-6017.